Okay, good morning, everyone. We're going to start learning today's portion of Chumash on page 463. The third reading, verse 4 of chapter 22. We're in the portion of Mishpatim, which talks about the some of the more rational laws, meaning the laws of the Torah, which we call Mishpatim, which are understood. We have some rationalization for them. They're basically some of the civil laws, laws of damages and things of that nature. And as we will learn right now in verse 4, we'll continue. This is talking about when someone causes damage to another person via his animal. As he says in 4, if a man takes his animal into someone else's field or vineyard, and he lets them trample or graze in this other person's field or vineyard, so he damaged it, right? Then he must pay for the damages. If he wishes to pay for the damages with land rather than money, with real estate, he must make restitution with the best of his field or the best of his vineyard. You can't give him the garbage. You got to give him the best of you. If you're going to give him real estate, then you have to give him the best. A higher grade, in other words. In other words, more fertile land, things that not rocky, the better one. If a fire breaks out, even accidentally, and it spreads through thorns so that it consumes stacked or standing grain or a newly plowed field, hardening it so the owner has to plow it again, so he caused them again damage, the one who kindled the fire must make restitution, even though he started the fire on his own property. He did not take sufficient measures to prevent it from spreading onto someone else's property and is therefore liable for damages. So it's basically straightforward. 6. If a man gives his fellow man money or objects for unpaid safekeeping, you're going on a trip, for example, for a week, and you have some valuable items, you don't want to leave them home, so you deposit them in your friend's house for safekeeping. He's doing you a favor, he's not getting paid for it. And the latter, the consignee, asserts that although he was not negligent in their care, they were nonetheless stolen from his house. So here's what happened. You come back after the week, you say, okay, let me pick up my valuables. You come to the guy's house, he tells you, sorry, they were stolen in the middle of the night. So what do? So he says, if the thief is found, the thief must make double restitution to the consignor, meaning to the owner of those objects, not to the person who was holding on to them. But if the thief is not found and the consignor accuses the consignee, meaning the one who's
the friend,
the friend that was keeping it, watching him, so you suddenly are now accusing him of stealing the goods himself. You're just saying that it was stolen, but really you're the one that took it. And the consignee admits that he took a portion of the goods but not all of them. Then the owner of the house, the consignee, must approach the judges to swear that he did not lay a hand on his fellow man's property any more than he admits. By taking this oath, the consignee exempts himself from having to pay anything further to the consignor. That means if he admitted partially, so he pays what he admitted, and after taking an oath that's all he took. If the consignor afterwards brings witnesses who testify that the consignee has stolen more than he has admitted, then in every such case of possible dishonesty, whether it involves an ox, a donkey, a sheep, a garment, or anything allegedly lost or stolen, and witnesses testify, this is it. In other words, the disputed goods are in the possession of the consignee. They caught him, they have it there. The claims of both parties, the witnesses testifying on behalf of the consignor, and the consignee must come before the judges. The party whom the judges finds guilty must make double restitution to his fellow man. That's a basic law of a thief, that if you steal someone else's money or object, whatever it may be, and then you're caught, that you stole it, see, and you didn't admit, you were caught, then you have to pay double the amount. That's the punishment. If a man gives his fellow man a donkey or an ox, a sheep, or any other animal for paid safekeeping, in other words, he deposited into his safekeeping something with pay. He's going to pay you to hold it, like you have businesses do that. And it dies. Now the animal died, yeah? Naturally. It's fatally maimed by a wild beast, or for example, it got ripped up by an animal, not killed, fatally maimed, yeah, it was fatally killed by a wild beast, or it is carried off by robbers, you stole the animal, and there are no eyewitnesses, then an oath to God must take place between the two men, between the two of them. The consignee, the one who was watching it, must swear that he did not lay a hand on his fellow man's property to use it. For if he used it, he is no longer considered a paid consignee, but a hirer, and as such is responsible in these cases. But if he swears that he did not use it, the owner must accept the oath, and the consignee need not pay the consignor anything. That means like this. I deposit, I'm leaving on a trip, and I have an animal, a dog. Yeah, you go, you put it in a kennel for safety, for dog sitting, right? They're getting paid for it. You come back, and the dog died, or was devoured or mauled by another animal, accidentally. In other words, it's not like you were negligent. It just things happened. It died. So what he's saying is, he has to take an oath that he didn't try to use the animal in any other way. He was there, it was safekeeping, and it was wandering around in his property, and it died. You don't have to pay because it's not your fault. If, however, 6:11, it was in fact stolen from him, but what happens if the guy comes back and says, "Sorry, your dog or your sheep was stolen from my property"? He must make restitution to its owner. Why? Unlike the unpaid consignee, the paid consignee is responsible for theft of property in his safekeeping. And the principle is, because you're being paid, it's expected of you to have a better protection for your animals, you know. If in fact it was killed by a wild beast, and this was witnessed, then the consignee need not swear to that effect. So even though he's getting paid, he doesn't have to pay restitution if the animal was killed by another animal. It wasn't his fault what you do. So you're not liable to that degree. For theft, yeah, but not for that. He must produce witnesses, and then he need not make any restitution for the mauled animal. But in any case, the paid consignee is exempt from responsibility only if the consignor's animal was attacked by an animal he could not contend with, such as a wolf, a lion, a bear, a snake. But if it was attacked by an animal he could have deflected, such as a cat, a fox, or a marten, he is held responsible. You should have done something.
Is that you? What?
Yeah. If a person borrows something from his fellow man and it breaks or dies, now he's talking about a borrower. In that case, the borrower is going to be liable for everything. Again, if a person borrows something from his fellow man and it breaks or dies, and its owner was not employed by the borrower to work with him, because the borrower was doing his own thing on his own, the borrower must make restitution. Unlike the paid consignee, the borrower is responsible for accidental loss as well, even beyond theft, even if it was mauled or whatever. If, however, its owner was employed by the borrower to work with him, the borrower need not make restitution. In fact, the owner need not have been employed to do the same. The owner need not have been employed to do the same kind of work that the borrowed object or animal was borrowed for, and he need not have been employed at the moment the accident occurred. As long as the owner was in the borrower's employ when the borrowed when he borrowed the object from him, the borrower is not responsible for accidental loss. That means if you borrowed someone else's animal to plow your field, but you also hired at the same time the owner of this animal. So then if accidents happen, these types of things happen, the borrower is not responsible. If in contrast the article was rented, it's not borrowed but rented, it has come into the renter's service in exchange for its rental fee, and he is therefore not a borrower, and is not held responsible for accidental loss as the borrower is. In other words, being that he's paying, so he's not responsible at such a high degree. However, there are two ways to conceive what the renter is responsible for. According to one, he is responsible only for negligence, as is the unpaid consignee. According to the other, he is responsible for theft, as is the paid consignee. In other words, there's a dispute among the rabbis. What's the law of the renter? I rent from you an animal. To plow my field, I'm paying you $100 a day for the animal. Okay, so I'm paying for it. So now what happens is this animal, and I rent it for a week. You come after the week to collect your animal, and I say it was stolen. Do I have to pay for the animal as a renter? Does the renter have to pay, or is he like the unpaid watchman or like the paid watchman? The unpaid watchman doesn't have to pay. Paid watchman does. That's the dispute. One opinion says it's like the unpaid watchman. He's not responsible for anything. The other one says that it's like a paid watchman, where he's liable if it got stolen, but not if there was an accidental death. Okay, we'll stop here.
Just when it was getting exciting.
Have a good day, everyone.